Hey guys, Butler Bulldog Bill here, and I'm here today to talk about the Butler Bulldogs move to the Atlantic 10 Conference. Um, Butler has been in the Horizon League for a very, very long time, basically since its inception. The Horizon League used to be known as the Midwestern Collegiate Conference, and that conference has gone through a bunch of members over time. Oral Roberts has been in Notre Dame, uh, just a lot of schools like that. And basically, Butler has been there since the beginning, and they have decided that they will be moving to the Atlantic 10 Conference for the 2013-2014 season. So at the moment, Butler, they've got one more year in the Horizon League, and it's kind of a bittersweet goodbye to the Horizon League. Um, the Horizon League has been a great home for Butler. Um, they're, they it's a 10-team conference. You've got Butler Bulldogs, the Cleveland State Vikings, the Wright State Raiders, the Youngstown State Penguins, the Valparaiso Crusaders, the Detroit Titans, the Loyola of Chicago Ramblers, the Illinois Chicago Flames, the Wisconsin Green Bay Phoenix, and the Wisconsin Milwaukee Panthers. And it's been a great home, very regionalized. All the teams in that conference, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin. The furthest opponent Butler had on their schedule has on their schedule in the Horizon League is Wisconsin Green Bay, and that's about I think 400 miles away. So it's pretty. It's not that really that far of a distance when you look at other conferences and how far they've got to travel for some of their games. And Butler is, you know, they're probably one of the. I think they might be the furthest south team in the Horizon League. So to go from one extreme to the other to play Wisconsin Green Bay, who's the furthest north, I mean, for it only to be 400 miles, that's still pretty darn close. But Butler will be making the transition from the Horizon League into the Atlantic 10. Butler was originally supposed to be, well, they were the replacement for the Temple Owls, who will be making the move to the Big East Conference for the 2013-2014 season in all sports. They will be moving to the Big East Conference. In football, for the 2012 season, to replace West Virginia, who went to the Big 12. But anyway, so they're taking Temple's place. The Atlantic 10 was wanting Butler to come in and take their place, and also bring in George Mason and Virginia Commonwealth from the Colonial Athletic Association. That way they could be a 16-team conference, and they could take the three mid-majors that have made it to the Final Four over the last 10, 15 years. You got Butler, went to the championship game twice. VCU went to the Final Four in the 2010-2011 season, and then you've got George Mason, who went to the Final Four in the 2005-2006 season. So Atlantic 10 was hoping to replace Temple with Butler, plus add VCU and George Mason, and really kick it up a notch in terms of toughness. Become a 16-team conference. They have not yet been able to grab VCU and George Mason. They're still working on that. The problem now is that they were banking on everybody else staying in the Atlantic 10. Well, now Charlotte, the 49ers, are moving out of the Atlantic 10, and they're going to Conference USA. In doing so, that'll leave the Atlantic 10 with 13 members at the moment, pending on what George Mason and VCU decide to do. But Charlotte goes to Conference USA in the 2013-2014 season. They're adding a football program which will play independent in the FCS, Division 1 AA subdivision for 2 years before they are legally allowed to join Division 1A in the 2015 season. So, but yeah, Butler will be moving to the Atlantic 10, and in doing so, they have, I think, 5 or 6 opponents that are, you know, outside, you know, okay. Wisconsin Green Bay was their furthest opponent in the Horizon League, but when they go to the Atlantic 10, there are 6 opponents that will be even further to travel to than what Wisconsin Green Bay was, and that's gonna suck. And geographically, Atlantic 10, you've got Butler in that, you've got Xavier in that, Dayton, St. Louis. That doesn't make a lot of geographical sense when it comes to the Atlantic 10 conference. You're looking at teams along the Atlantic coast. But anyway, that's just the way that conference realignment is going. It seems like regions and geography don't make any difference anymore. But the good news out of this move is Butler will be reuniting with their old Midwestern Collegiate Conference rivals in St. Louis, in Dayton, and Xavier. They play that rivalry game with Xavier every year, so now they don't have an excuse to drop it. So it's going to be nice to be able to play Xavier every year. I enjoy that rivalry. It's one of the games that I have to see as a Butler fan, is Butler against Xavier. It's one of those, both of those programs are 2 of the top mid-major conference teams, and it's a measuring stick for Butler when they play Xavier to see where exactly they are at. Let's see. The problem I have with Butler joining the Atlantic 10, other than the geography, is that there's a big gap between the Horizon League and the Atlantic 10. Atlantic 10 is a huge jump. They are a conference that average somewhere between 3 and 4 teams into the NCAA tournament every year. The Horizon League gets 1, maybe 2. So Butler's really going to be jumping up here. The Atlantic 10 has actually been one of the top 5 conferences, top 5-6 conferences in college basketball over the last couple seasons, with the Pac-12 really dropping off, big time. ACC and the SEC have been kind of weak. Atlantic 10 has been pretty consistent, and they are definitely one of the top conferences. And for Butler to jump from one of the bottom ones to the top ones the way they are, it's definitely going to be a tough transition. They're going to have to be a lot better at recruiting. They do have a great recruiting class coming in this coming season, but they're going to have to do even better when you're playing teams like Xavier, like Dayton, St. Joseph's, St. Louis, with Rick Majerus as the coach there. Massachusetts has really picked it up recently. LaSalle made the NIT this year. They look pretty decent in that tournament. I'm sure I'm leaving a few good teams out, and I apologize for that, but this isn't going to be any cakewalk for Butler. What Butler did with their scheduling, and as part of the Horizon League, they played a lot of tough opponents in the non-conference schedule in order to boost their RPI and their strength of schedule for when the NCAA tournament came around, to make them a more attractive team when the selection process came about. But now that they're joining the Atlantic 10, they can weaken their non-conference schedule a bit, because the Atlantic 10 conference schedule is going to be pretty darn tough. So, Butler's really going to have to bring it every single game. This is the big leagues now, and you can't be diddle-daddling around. You've got to play your best game after game after game. How do I feel about the move to Atlantic 10? It's a good thing, but it's a bad thing. And I explained both of those reasons why. Butler has such a tradition and history in the Horizon League, and I hate that they're giving that up. But the Atlantic 10 joining that means that they're growing. They're becoming a basketball power. But the way I look at it is, the Atlantic 10, Butler made their name being from a very small conference, being a really good team out of a really small conference. And I feel like they're giving up some of their mystique, some of their, David, like, the whole David and Goliath story. If they move up to the Atlantic 10, they're not so much David anymore. They are you know, kind of moving up in the world. They go from being the little brother to the middle brother in the Atlantic 10. So it's definitely it's bittersweet in that part of it. And I'm afraid if they get good enough, they could become a power conference school, which Butler has made their name as being, the Milan Miracle, the Hickory Huskers, the Hoosiers Miracle team. So I feel like they're giving some of that up, and you know, Horizon League's been, even though they're one of the weaker conferences, they've been tough on Butler. All those teams shoot to get at Butler. That's the win they want on their schedule is against Butler. So giving that all up, it kind of stinks. But I guess it's something that, it has to happen eventually. If you get good for a while, you're going to have to move up, and it helps you bring in more money and bring in more fans for your school. So that's my thoughts on Butler joining the Atlantic 10. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And as Casual Gamer Reed always says, please like, subscribe, comment, and as always, go Butler Blue.